Hello friends, it's that time of year again where I, see an article and then read it to you in just disbelief that someone wrote this down in this order. Is this what I care about right now, today? It's 11 p.m. This article came out today. Is this what I'm doing with my life? And I will just say yes. I think scientific communication is incredibly important. I think the media misrepresenting science is one of the reasons we're here, where we are today. And I think it's important to call it out when you see it. And that's what this video is. Hi, if this is your first video, weird choice. I'm Angela. Some lore for this channel. I am a professional theoretical physicist. I work in computation and I use AI and machine learning tools every single day. Recently, I've had to start writing software. And that sucks for me. But I understand when and how to use AI. And, I even made a whole video about it. I said, AI doesn't exist, actually. These language learning models, these machine learning tools are tools. And unless you're an expert, who can recognize the utility of the results, the fidelity of the results, when and where to actually use this tool, it's kind of just garbage and you don't need it. And in this video, I also made a bunch of predictions about how companies were just going to ram it into our throats. And it would just cause a lot of bad things to happen. And I have to say I nailed it. Rarely does one make a video with predictions and then they all just come true. That all just happened. So it is interesting to me that I still get comments on this video that came out a year ago, predicted a bunch of things that actually happened, and they'll be like, oh, this age liked milk. Look at this random Daily Mail article I saw about a new AI tool that cured cancer. And please show me this super cool AI tool that came out in the last year that changed the world and actually worked and actually did anything useful. Please show it to me. Link it to me. That'd be great. I understand when it's used for scientific research. Do that every day. What are you referring to? Is it that super cool AI tool that told Matthew McConaughey to find a restaurant that would not put him outside at a dining table during a hurricane? Is that the tool?
The booking app I used didn't have Agent Force, so an AI agent didn't know to move my reservations inside or know what I like to eat.
This company is trying to trick its investors into thinking this tool is so useful that they paid for a Super Bowl commercial. Why does it seem like the way they plan to monetize their language learning models is to make decisions that we already make every day? I don't need you to AI shop for pants for me. I know how to do that. I'm not going to pay you to do that.
It's very,
Right?
This store doesn't have Agent Force, so an AI agent didn't tip off the stylist as to what I might actually wear.
Yes.
Ooh.
I know the whole thing I just did was super annoying and I should try to be humble, but I released a bunch of predictions and they came true. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, I think people are onto the bit now. It's been 3 full years of these companies with this billion-dollar valuation, zero product, zero useful utility to the software they're presenting us, zero ideas for how to monetize this. We get it. We get that it's not a thing that's useful at this moment. Really the best you can do is search for a restaurant. Google already does that. I don't need an AI. It boggles the mind. But most people get it, right? It's only the dumbest guy who still thinks Elon Musk is a genius is thinking somehow AI is real and also it's going to specifically make them rich. So I think it's progress over the last year, for the people. But you see, the capitalist overlords, they still need to make the AI thing make money, even though they don't have an idea for what the product should be that people would actually pay for. Zuckerberg still has to release these embarrassing metaverse videos where he's look at all the progress we've made. Come to them. No one wants that, bro.
That's nothing. Mine left a note. It said it's not you, it's the Wi-Fi. I found it while reaching for the milk. Whoa.
Over his Wi-Fi?
That is bad.
I understand that you need to do that to make sure you have the invisible imaginary $1 billion you have in your company, but nobody wants that. It's embarrassing. Just do something else. Just do the goggles again or whatever. You can't buy a computer or a cell phone or a washer and dryer set without some garbage AI tool that nobody wants, that claims it's going to save you time by like determining the spin cycle or making your grocery list or responding to your emails, but you can't let it do that because there's no fidelity in AI, because like AI as we think of it does not exist. So you spend your time checking what it's actually doing. It saves you zero time. And also, by the way, while it's doing that, it's stealing your data. It's built on stolen data. It's destroying the environment by using all the electricity in the world, and like you're the product. It's just in there to take your information. And we're just speed running a climate disaster because these companies are shoving these tools in our face that nobody wants. Anyway, here's the article. So the title is, Can Google's new research assistant AI give scientists superpowers? ? And I mean, what is this called? The law of headlines? If it's asking a question, then the answer is no. So we don't need to read further. Superpowers from AI bestowed on scientists by the Google overlords. Hooray. So let me read the tagline to you. Researchers who have been given... I'm going to spill this on myself. Researchers who have been given access to Google's new AI co-scientist tool are enthusiastic about its potential, but it isn't clear whether it can make truly novel discoveries. We learned 3 things, right? Google has created an AI co-scientist tool, and actually I'm in Google right now. Don't tell them I'm shit-talking them. 2, scientists are enthusiastic. Scientists are enthusiastic about this tool. Okay, I'm sure we'll hear from those scientists who are enthusiastic. This sounds great. Enthusiastic is a very specific word that means like overly excited. So I'm sure we'll see that from them in quotes. And then finally, it's not clear whether or not this thing can truly make novel discoveries. And just before we go on, yes, it is clear, because you and I know how language learning models work, and we know that they do not make novel things. They produce results based on the data that is input that they think you're expecting. That's what they do. They don't make novel discoveries. That's not in their wheelhouse. So we know right away that no, the AI language learning model is not going to be making novel scientific discoveries. Yes, it is clear whether or not a language learning model can do that, can make a novel discovery. Clearly, it cannot. And the people at Google know this. I'm sure the person that wrote this article also knows this. But I feel like for some reason they don't want you and I to know this. Because their company would lose value if you knew that, actually, no, AI isn't going to be doing science for us because it's a computer. And that's not how science works. But, then they might lose money. So this article is by Michael LePage, and it was printed on the internet February 19th, 2025. So let's get into it. Google has unveiled an experimental artificial intelligence system that uses advanced reasoning to help scientists synthesize vast amounts of literature, generate novel hypotheses, and suggest detailed research plans. According to its press release, the idea with the AI co-scientist is to give scientists superpowers, says Alan Karthikelasingam. That is an amazing name, and I hope I said it correctly, at Google. Right. So, first of all, I'm sure that Google definitely purchased all of these scientific works. They now hold the copyright to them so that the authors whose blood, sweat, and tears went into those scientific articles can, get some monetization from Google trying to, make the job of scientists to go away. I'm sure that that's all above board, and they didn't steal a single research paper and just shove the entire internet into their LLM. I'm sure, because that would be evil, and we know Google isn't evil. They say so in their handbook. And honestly, I thought the headline was hyperbole. How sometimes a science writer will do interviews and call and write it up and then send it back to the scientists and be like, is this what you were trying to say? Does this make it clear? And then an editor will just be like, so the God particle is real, as the headline, and it's not anyone's decision other than the editor's. I thought this superpowers thing was a last minute decision by the editor, but the Google guy Alan Carthicosinogem literally says, give scientists superpowers. It's not a radioactive spider. It's a language learning model. Like, you feed it a bunch of data in the form of scientific papers. It develops an algorithm to respond to input based on how all those papers are written. So it spits something back at you that it has formulated from the text of all those papers. It's not a superpower. It's an advanced search engine. But you know, this guy's an MD PhD, so maybe he knows what he's talking about. Maybe he literally thinks it's a superpower. I mean, he did say that very specifically. It gives scientists superpowers. I mean, he's a medical doctor. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm sure he knows what he's talking about, but also he works for Google, so. The teams that tried it are enthusiastic about its potential, and these examples suggest that the AI co-scientist will be helpful for synthesizing findings. However, it is debatable whether the examples support the claim that an AI can generate novel hypotheses, and it just must be devastating to grow up with the intention of becoming a writer and then having to do this. Like, this was the byline. You already wrote this exact same sentence. We haven't seen anyone be enthusiastic about it yet, except for the guy who knows worked at Google. Like, we get it. We've heard there are enthusiastic people. I'm waiting to hear from them. Like, this is just word filler. I hate this for us. It's almost like these articles are written because they know no one is actually going to read them. They're only going to read the headline, which says AI gives scientists superpowers, even though that's not what the text of the article says. I think we haven't gotten to it yet. I also just really wish they would elaborate on this debate that they say is being had over whether or not the LLM can do novel hypotheses, because we know it can't. Because we know how LLMs work. The scientists working in this field know that. They know that an LLM cannot make novel hypotheses. Does Michael LePage know that? Why doesn't he elucidate us? The audience, surely the entire audience of this article, if they read past the headline, doesn't understand this yet. You're not posting anything about the debate. What's the debate? Who's debating that? No, actually, some people actually do think that this LLM is going to solve all of science. Who's saying that? I just don't understand. For instance, Google says one team used the system to find new ways of potentially treating liver fibrosis. However, the drugs proposed by the AI have previously been studied for this purpose. Here's the quote. The drugs identified are well established to be antifibrotic. I didn't say that right. Antifibrotic, says Stephen O'Reilly at UK biotech company. There is nothing new here. So Stephen O'Reilly, a doctor, he works in biotech. He has a bunch of publications, does not work for Google. And he says there is nothing new here, because an LLM would be a great tool to help you write like a review paper, something to read everything that has been written and summarize like the most cited important results. And then, of course, an expert would have to read the output, go back and check for the fidelity, and make sure everything made sense, of course. But you could use this tool as like a library, or perhaps just a simple Google search. But to suggest that it's going to come up with new ideas, there's nothing new here. That's not how this would work. Are we supposed to include Stephen O'Reilly in the enthusiastic scientist group that are stated in the title? Because he doesn't seem very enthusiastic. He said there's nothing new here. Team member Gary Peltz at the Stanford University School of Medicine in California says 2 out of the 3 drugs selected by the AI co-scientist showed promise in tests on human liver organoids, whereas neither of the 2 he personally selected did, despite there being more evidence to support his choices. So this group looked for drugs to do a thing. He came up with his own idea to like test, like man versus machine, the Google AI, and he's like, whoa. Surprisingly, 2 of the drugs that the Google came up with seem like they could be promising. But like the AI didn't make drugs, right? The AI read a bunch of articles about different drugs and was like, maybe I try this, I guess. So that's what happened. And Gary Peltz, he works at Stanford. He's a PhD MD. He has a bunch of citation. He's like, whoa, it proposed treatments that I didn't even think of. The AI co-scientist led Gary Peltz into a new idea to test. Oh my god, oh my goodness. But notice that little line at the end where it says, Google gave him money to run this test. Okay. The guy who was paid by Google to say the thing was good says the thing is good is not an enthusiastic endorsement. But also that paragraph starts with the phrase, while the potential use of the treatment isn't new. So these drugs have already been used and tested to treat this illness. And the AI knows that because it's fed hundreds of thousands of studies, surely above board. Surely the scientists who work on that were paid for their labor before it was just shoved into Google's AI, I'm sure. But obviously a computer search program, like an LLM, is going to be better at finding results than a human person with limited memory capacity, has not read all the articles, has not had access to all that information. The LLM will pull out more things than a human. This test has been done for the past 15 years. Of course an LLM can do that. These drugs have already been used to treat this illness, just not by this person. So yeah, this is a helpful tool, like I said, for something like a review paper to like make sure you're getting all your options. But this is not making new science. This is just reading old results and presenting them to you. And the title of this article calls this a superpower. It's essentially a library. It's fast at finding information. It's a helpful tool. It is not doing new science. And all I'm saying is that we've heard from 2 separate scientists in this article, and I've yet to see an enthusiastic endorsement of this tool that's going to change the world. That's actually a superpower, except for the guy who actually directly works for Google called it a superpower. So let us keep reading. In another paper, Jose Piñatas at Imperial College London and his colleagues describe how the co-scientists proposed a hypothesis matching an unpublished discovery. He and his team study mobile genetic elements, bits of DNA that can move between bacteria by various means. Blah, blah, blah. Unpublished work. So, the way science works is you have an idea and you study a thing. And while you're studying that thing, hundreds of more questions come up, right? So, while you're studying the one thing that you're going to write the paper up about, you're writing all this other stuff down to do later, right? So this is what happens. His group studied a thing. They saw a bunch of interesting stuff. They wrote up one paper, they published it, and then they wrote up and have yet to publish the next results. So what they're suggesting is that the Google AI co-scientists read all the papers, read their paper, and then discovered the unpublished result that Jose Piñatas and team have written up but not yet put on the internet to publish. Okay, wow. That sounds exciting. AI tools, because that would mean that the AI had found something new, a thing that shouldn't be possible. So what's in this LLM? What's happening here? And I mean, maybe this is the enthusiastic endorsement. We were shocked, says Piñatas. I sent an email to Google saying, you have access to my computer, is that right? Because otherwise, I can't believe what I'm reading here. So maybe this is it. Let's keep reading. What is clear is that it was fed everything it needed to find the answer, rather than coming up with an entirely new idea. Everything was already published, but in different bits. The system was able to put everything together. You see, the team had actually published those results in 2023, and the language learning model did have access to it, so it just did what language learning models do and pulled all the relevant information together and used an algorithm to create sentences. So, I mean, Professor Jose Piñatas is really impressed, I guess. I guess that's an enthusiastic endorsement, but you gave it all that information. It is functioning exactly how you expect an LLM and exactly how you would use an LLM. I mean, it just did a literature review. Where is the superpower? You knew it could do that. You just forgot it had that paper. Why is this news? Why is this in the news? It's literally a functioning LLM, which is great. Can be used as a tool. You have to check the results yourself because there's no fidelity. AI doesn't exist, but it's not new here. But also, Piñatas' group had already done this research. They're suggesting that the AI tool didn't know about this paper and then came up with an idea. But, they had already done that research. They had already gotten so far into that project that they had written it up. So even if the LLM had suggested that idea, remember it didn't because it had access to that paper that wasn't fully published yet, Why would you pay Google $30,000 a year for that? Like, what exactly is that offering you that traditional just scientists coming up with a bunch of ideas doesn't? Why specifically would you pay Google money to come up with hypotheses for you? A thing that just, there's no short supply of interesting questions to ask in science. Why would anyone ever pay Google $1 million a year for this? And I know some people are going to be like, but they're not that expensive. ChatGPT is only $1,200 a month. But like, the thing is, that's the business model, right? Google, very specifically, is very good at this business model. They'll just email the university and be like, hey guys, what if we gave all your research teams unlimited storage? Wouldn't that be crazy? Like, we support research. We would love to do this for you. And of course, all the universities take them up on that offer. And then 4 years later, when there's 700 million files stored on Google's server, Google is just like, oh, you know what? Actually, $10 million a year. And do you think the university is going to build the infrastructure to like store all that data on site and hire the staff it would take to do that? No, they're just going to give Google $10 million a year. The same thing happened with Gmail. Like, hey guys, use our free email service. Give all your students emails. It's going to be great. And then 4 years later, when they have everything set to Gmail, everything is already set, all the documents are already stored, Google's just like, okay, you have to pay for that now. And I'm not saying they shouldn't do that. Of course, Google should make money. Of course, storing data takes money. Hosting web servers to host email addresses takes money. Of course, I'm just saying you should never trust that Google's going to give you something for free, because they never ever will. By the way, as a scientist, I don't think I want to be beholden to a company who does things like change the name of the Gulf of Mexico. Like, that makes sense. You can see how that might be a problem in scientific research. You can see how quickly that becomes evil, right? A thing that Google would never do, because like, it's literally in their handbook to not be evil. But like, just imagine it. Just take this thought experiment with me. Like, what if for some reason Google was like, actually, we're going to get rid of DEI and we're going to weight papers with only male authors as like 50% more important. Or we're going to weight papers with only American sounding man names 50% higher. You can see how that would happen, right? So why would you be foolish enough to wrap your entire research career around this? It doesn't make sense. I mean, besides Alan Karthik Salinajam, MD, PhD, and Gary Peltz, MD, PhD, and Dr. Jose Piñatas, at least we have Dr. Stephen O'Reilly in our corner, speaking truth to power, saying the obvious, the truthful statement of, there is nothing new here, right? The team tried other AI systems already on the market. None of them came up with the answer, he says. In fact, some didn't manage it even when fed the paper describing the answer. The systems suggest things that you never even thought about. Except you did, Piñatas. You did, because you already wrote that paper. Like, what are you talking about, dude? Who hasn't received any funding from Google? I think it will be game-changing. Jose, come on. At least make them buy you dinner before. Here's another line from the article. In 2023, however, the company announced that around 40 new materials had been synthesized with the help of GNOME AI yet. According to a 2024 analysis by Robert Palgrave at the University of London, not one of the synthesized materials was actually new. This is nothing new. And yet the headline calls it a superpower. So Dr. Palgrave coming in clutch with none of this is new. But also, you and I know this, because LLMs do not make new things. That is not what they do. To suggest that they do that, or to suggest that there is a debate about whether or not they can make new things, is a not true statement. They rearrange things. They're very good at that. They search things. They're very good at that. They are tools to be used by experts who can check the results. They can rearrange data in new ways that maybe a human wouldn't think about, but they do not make new things. That is not how this works. In no way should this be called a co-scientist, any more than you would call, like, the library a co-scientist. Like, what is Google's role expected to be in this? Like, are you allowed to sue Google when you get fired and all your papers get retracted because you used their co-scientists and they gave you a bunch of fake papers that they hallucinated, but, like, it's fine. we're going to ignore that that's a problem. So I don't think this is a co-scientist at all. I think it's disingenuous to call it that. It's frustrating. Anyway, despite his findings, Palgrave thinks AI can help scientists. In general, I think AI has a huge amount to contribute to science if it is implemented in collaboration with experts in their respective fields, he says. Which, like, yeah, of course. I'm a scientist. Hi, I use AI every day. I understand AI and machine learning and language learning models are fantastic tools. And of course, we use them on very specific scientific implementations, right? What Dr. Palgrave said is not that Google's AI co-scientist is a great tool. He said AI is a great tool when used with experts. Is this the endorsement claimed in the byline? Because he said nothing about Google. He said AI is a tool. I just think the media could be a little more honest about what they're saying in their articles, Michael LePage. AI superpowers is the top. Not a single scientist gets a good result that wasn't already a result. And suddenly there's a debate about whether AI LLMs can come up with new novel scientific research. There's no debate in this article. There's no enthusiastic support of this tool. There's the people who are paid by Google who are like, yeah, it's pretty good. And the one guy who forgot he gave it a paper and then was surprised when it gave his paper back. Why is this the headline? Because the thing is, people only read the headline. And so people are going to look at this article, Michael LePage, and they are going to say, I heard that scientists don't even do science anymore. They just use AI. I heard that AI can do all the science. I heard that AI is just coming up with new theories all the time. So, like, we don't even need scientists. That's what's going to happen. Like, this, as written, is not true, right? This title is not true. You're just doing free advertising for Google. And boy, am I going to be so, like, red in the face if I found out this website is just owned by Google. Like, I'm just actually reading advertising for Google. Because none of the scientists gave a ringing endorsement, only that scientists use AI tools as long as they're experts and can understand the output, which is what everyone said a year ago on this video. So, like, this is nothing new. That's the quote of the video. This is nothing new. So why is it being reported on like this? And the answer is because you want people to click on it. You know they're not going to read it. And you know they're just going to take away the little nugget of, like, I heard scientists don't even do anything anymore. And I feel like that's bad, man. I feel like that's bad. Here's the tweet and my response on Blue Sky, not Twitter. Everybody get off Twitter. We're done with it. If you need help coming up with a hypothesis, you shouldn't be a scientist. Every scientist I know has 100 project ideas and lack time to get to them. No one is... Oh, I typoed. See, that's why Twitter is fun. No one is sitting around twiddling thumbs without an interesting question to ask. We are in the dumbest timeline. And I just, read the author's presentation of the article. Need some help with your research? Google's AI co-scientists will come up with hypotheses and research plans for you. Imagine a mycologist just sitting in their office freaking the fuck out because they're like, oh God, I answered all the questions about mushrooms. I don't know what to do with all this funding. That's not how science works. This is like a child's view of science. Do you think scientists literally go sit in their office and they're like, I'm going to come up with a new hypothesis today? That's not how it works.